Good morning. I'm Linda, and this is No-Frills ASMR. Let me just start real quick. Recently, I have been doing some volunteer work at a few different places, just kind of trying stuff out. And one was it's a place that I thought it was so great. They take food that could become food waste, like overstock from grocers or damaged pallets, but they can still save some of it. But so let's say there's 6 juice boxes in a container, maybe 2 of them are damaged. So you take them out and use the other juice boxes. Okay. And then we set up grocery bags and basically make sure everybody has sort of equal amounts of different useful foods that would have gone to waste, and then deliver them to people who need that. So that was really, really, really cool. And then the other thing I've done recently is a free health clinic for dental, vision, hearing. And that was great because people, by the way, in the US, if you're not from here, even if you have regular health care, dental and vision and hearing are oftentimes not covered under your medical. Don't ask me why. I know it seems like they would go together. So you either have to buy them separately or they're just not. I mean, if you want insurance, you buy it separately. Let's put it that way. Like one of the weird things under our Medicare, which is for older people or people with disabilities, they do not cover hearing aids. What? I don't know why. Even though hearing loss is a major predictor of dementia and leads to you not being able to hold work and things like that. It's wild. It's wild. Anyway, but that work was great because I was like one-on-one with people, and I'll talk about that another time. What I'm getting to, sorry for the sidetrack, is one of the hot topics was the but the lack of funding for SNAP benefits starting November 1st. And I just thought we could talk about that a little bit. Not so much the politics of it, although I'll touch on that first just so we know why we're here. But, just what that means. What are SNAP benefits? You know what? Maybe I'll use these blue cards. Maybe I'll use those. So, SNAP, S-N-A-P. I've kind of talked about this once before, I think, or maybe a few times before, but it is the Supplemental Nutritional. Oh, hold on. My brain's freezing. Assistance Program. That's what it is. So that is what SNAP is. And let's go into the history a little bit. In the 1930s, during the Great Depression, that is when they first started giving people food stamps. And the idea behind it in the 1930s was farmers were really struggling because they couldn't sell all their crops because nobody had money to buy the food. And so there was just a surplus of crops. So to alleviate that a little bit, the government gave people stamps that they could use to buy the food that would help the farmers be able to sell their crops. So that was the beginning of food stamps, was during the Great Depression. And then the program kind of went away for a while. And during John F. Kennedy's administration between 1961 and 1964, that time period, Kennedy said, we're bringing this back. And of course, Kennedy was assassinated, and Lyndon Johnson, as part of the Great Society program, made food stamps permanent with the Food Stamp Act. Food Stamp Act of 1964. So after that time, they had food stamps. And if you're old, like me, you might remember. Sorry, my phone, I thought it was out of memory, but it's not. It's okay. Okay, sorry. I had that happen once. I filmed an hour-long video and it was out of memory and I didn't realize it. So I just wanted to double check. Where was I? So the food stamp, right. So for decades, it was literal paper stamps and you'd have a booklet. Now, I have this memory of my mom having stamps. And I was like, but certainly I don't think that we were on food stamps because, we were middle income. And no, we weren't. There used to be grocery stores that had these stamp books and you'd collect the stamps and then you got a free turkey or something, sort of like they do now with grocery stores. But these were stamps that were those were like green stamps. These are food stamps, so they're kind of different. They're very different actually. But so they had food stamps and you'd put them in the booklet and you could use that to buy food. Now, in about, I think the 1990s, between 1990s and 2000s, right, they switched it over to what are called EBT cards. And that stands for electronic benefit transfer. Electronic benefit transfer, right. So they're like a debit card and they load each month. And then you have that card, that amount of money to spend on specific groceries. You can't just buy anything. They're kind of specific. And then in 2008, that's when they renamed it SNAP. But they still use the EBT cards. So that's kind of the basic history of the program. Now, one of the things is it is funded by the federal government, but like Medicaid, the federal government gives the money to the states, and then each state decides how to handle the program within their state. So some states make it easier and some states make it harder. So you can look into your own state that you live in to see how the program is, given out. But they are still put onto these EBT cards. Now, you can't use it to buy, you can't buy things like alcohol, tobacco. People like to say people use it for a lottery card. You can't buy lottery cards. Now, back when it was like the food stamp book, or in the early days of the EBT, there was more shenanigans going on where like grocers would give people credit and give them cash back. But now they've really have a system where when you run it through the machine, it only lets you get the things that have scanned as appropriate for SNAP. So it's not like you can just buy any old thing with these cards. And I think depending on state is how much you can get per person in your family. So it is based on income, or actually lack of income, I suppose. And then you get a certain amount per week, something like that. But I'll tell you, it's not like it's a windfall, and it can only be used for food. You can't, and I don't think you can add it up. It has to be used during that month, and then the next month it's reloaded, and I think that's how that works. I should have looked into that a little more. By the way, I forgot to mention, I'm not any kind of an expert. I just spent this morning sort of researching this program. I've actually never used it, so I'm not very familiar with it. But I tried to look it up and understand it, so I'm just sharing what I know. So in the comments, if you'd like, if you have more information and you're friendly, feel free to share it. But yeah, I'm not AI or anything, so I don't know. I'm not perfect. And I spell stuff wrong too. Okay. So a real quick, before we go into what's going on right now, I kind of want to talk about what I think is interesting is, like I said, in the 1930s when they started the program, it wasn't initially so much for people to get food. It was for farmers to sell their product to somebody. And to this day, SNAP program is part of the much larger Farm Bill, which is a bill that helps farmers keep the farms a running. And there are all different things within the Farm Bill, but one of those things is SNAP. So let me get a piece of paper. Hold on. So if you think about it from that, because I was like, well, wait, why is it part of the Farm Bill? Well, it's because the person with the card, all right, let's say today I will go buy a new Sharpie. That will happen because I'm sick of these Sharpies. That's a long-legged, that's a supermodel shopping right there. We'll make her hair long. Okay. So she's got her EBT card and she buys products that are okay to buy for her family, like a bag of rice. We've got some tomato soup. We've got a sack of potatoes. We've got a chicken, and some milk. That's not very good. And then a dozen eggs. And that dozen eggs, that just spent her whole budget. I mean, really, that's about it. Okay. So she's got all the things she needs to with her little kids here, because maybe she's a single mom who can only work part-time because she has 3 kids. And so there we go. Or maybe she works at one of the farms in her town and the farm doesn't produce during the winter, so she gets laid off for a while. Or maybe her and her husband both work, but they live in an area where the minimum wage is $7 an hour, and it's just not enough to really pay their rent because rents are so high. And that's her husband, he's short. And, I don't know the stories of all the people in the world, but there's a lot of them out there. And after working, volunteering, and meeting people face to face who were so thankful for the help, I can't tell you, there are just a lot of stories in the world. There's a lot of reasons. Okay, so now they're spending the money. So they go up to the cash register. I mean, it's sort of an old-fashioned cash register. And they pay for their groceries. And so now these people have gotten food. So there's where it starts. And then once they pay for it, this guy is able to keep his job. And then, because they need to order more food, this guy who drives the truck gets to have a job. He's the truck driver who delivers the food. And then, because the truck driver needs to get the food, how do you draw this? There's the seat the guy's sitting in. This is the tractor guy. He's got a farmer hat on. I don't know, is that what a farmer hat looks like? Okay, so he gets a job because he's the tractor driver. Tractor, I don't know, or a farm worker kind of person. But then also, I should have put it probably before here, but we've got the, here's the factory that processes the food. Maybe they make the tomato soup. Maybe they process the meat. But that will employ a whole bunch of people. So what they said, what I read, is for every $1 that goes out in SNAP benefits, somewhere between $1.50 and $1.70 is gained for the economy because of all the jobs it creates and the less food waste that is created. Because a lot of times, if these things don't happen, then the farms end up wasting food and the factories end up wasting food. So you need to have the people have the money in order to keep the whole system running. Also, if there aren't enough people with the money to buy the basic supplies like milk, eggs, meat, vegetables, all that, then the grocery stores have to start increasing the prices on each item because they don't have a constant source of people to buy it. So they're ordering less, or they have more waste because they expire before they can sell them. So the actual cost of items goes up. Isn't that wild? Like, it's just such an interesting, I was like, wow, okay, that's interesting. So yeah, so really the SNAP benefits, while they do benefit the poor, they were really installed, is that the word, for the farmers and the factories who deal with, food. Interesting. I thought that was interesting. But yeah, so it can help to like stabilize grocery prices if they know. Oh, and the other thing is, because SNAP benefits have to be used quickly within the month, that keeps it a constant. It's not like people are saving it up for Christmas time. It keeps it a constant income for the groceries. And this especially is good for like small town grocers who are like not big chain. Not that there are that many of those left anymore, but small town grocery stores, or I don't know, like mom and pop shops that are in small towns, which are starting to go away because of like Walmart superstores and stuff, but they're still out there and they're still needed, like your little A&P markets and things like that. Okay, so that's interesting. I thought. The other thing with SNAP is it's less than 2% of the federal budget. I think I did a video on the federal budget and where all the money goes. The whole farm bill isn't much, but I think SNAP it's less than 2% of the budget. Okay, but here is what's going on right now. The U.S. government is still closed. I did a video all about it. I will try to remember to link it. If you're like, why is the government closed? What's going on? That video went into it, and it still holds true. It is basically that, I'll give you the quick synopsis. The One Big Beautiful Bill passed because right now we have a Republican president, a Republican House, and a Republican Senate. And you need those three things for a bill to pass. The bill passed, but there were some major cuts in the bill. There were huge amounts of money going towards ICE and the military and something else. And then and I did a video on the One Big Beautiful Bill too. I'll link that too. But there were cuts that are planned after the midterm elections for Medicaid in particular. Okay, there's other things, but let's just say that. Okay, Medicaid, which is health insurance for people who don't have health insurance or low income or whatever. And well, low income people who don't have health insurance, let's put it that way, and work requirements and things like that to get that health insurance. Which, by the way, after volunteering and meeting people who use those kind of services, I don't think a lot of those people are not equipped for the work requirements and the paperwork. And I'm not going to go into that, but you should volunteer to meet people because they're wonderful, lovely, thankful, but not equipped for that. So it kind of makes me upset when I think about it, actually. Okay, so the government right now is closed because in order for the government to stay open, they have to have more than, I forget, like whatever, 60% of the Senate vote for that. Is that right? Something like that. And the Republicans have control, but they don't have that much control. So they have to get enough Democrats to also vote with them. The Democrats are holding up the vote to keep the government open because they want the Republicans to make a change in the One Big Beautiful Bill to not take away Medicaid after the midterms. And so they're kind of sticking to their guns about that. So it's all politics, you guys, okay? So the Republicans are saying this is the Democrats' fault. They could reopen the government and fund your SNAP benefits, but they're refusing. The Democrats are saying we're refusing because you want to take away Medicaid, and also you're talking about cuts to SNAP long term also. Now, like, Republican House member Josh Hawley has come out and said, I am willing to fund SNAP short term if the Democrats say it's okay. But he has also said that he is against he wants to cut SNAP long term. So it's sort of like the Democrats are in this weird position of, do you make a deal with the devil? You know what I'm saying? Like, in their mind. I'm not saying he's a devil. I'm just saying in their mind. It's sort of like that. And it's all politics. It's all politics. So that's just what's going on right now. Now, the Republicans say Medicaid, the reason why they want to cut it, it costs too much money. Democrats are like, yeah, but you're willing to spend a lot of money on other things, but not this, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. That just depends on what you should research it and learn about it and decide how you feel about it. But that is what's going on right now. That's the story. Yeah, so I'm trying to think if there's anything else about that. I will say one of the other programs that's included in SNAP is that gets funding from SNAP is a program called WIC, which a lot of us have probably used as women. It's women, infants, and children. And it helps anybody. I don't think you have to be low income, but I probably was. I was a waitress at the time and had to take off work, and they won't pay you for maternity when I had kids as a waitress. I don't know if they do now. I don't think so. Even if they did, they'd pay you $2.34 an hour, which is waitress pay, which is insanity. So it helps during that time. So I'm sure I probably did use that, but that will be cut too, which is actually even more upsetting because for women who can't breastfeed, there are reasons why some women cannot. It's not just a choice all the time, especially though if you have to go back to work. Formula can be extremely expensive, and it helps with a lot of that stuff. Anyway, that's beside the point. Not beside the point, it is part of the point. All right, what else was I going to talk about? Let me try to think here for a minute. I don't know. I can't remember. Oh, one thing is a lot of people talk about fraud in the system, but I did a deep dive on that, and fraud is really rare now with these EBT cards. I think I did mention that It used to be a little bit, it would happen, but now the way it's set up, fraud is rare, and they really go after like grocery stores if they give refunds of cash. Like they track all that stuff now, so they can't do like exchange of cash for benefits kind of things like they used to. And the entire program is like one of the most efficient programs. It's like got less than 10% administration, running it cost. It's a very efficient program. So just so that's, I just looked it up because, some government programs are not. Yeah, so that's what's going on if you were wondering. And when I tried to look it up, it looks like about 41 million Americans use SNAP benefits. 41 million. And I don't know if that includes their children. Maybe it does, or if just the parents are the beneficiaries. You know what I'm saying? Or are the kids? I don't know. I forgot to look that up. But yeah, so that's a lot of people. And when I was working at the food bank, it is a concern because food banks help out a lot for when this doesn't cover enough, or when people aren't able to get on SNAP, but they still have food insecurity. Like if you lost your job suddenly, it takes time to get on these programs, I think. I don't really know exactly. Probably depends on the state. And also, like right now, the government employees are not getting paid paychecks. And it's been weeks. And sometimes you don't have a big enough emergency fund. A lot of people don't have an emergency fund, and you might need help. So the food banks are already right now being, what's the word? They're asking for donations, most of them, and asking for volunteers to help. But once this happens, they cannot make up the difference. Food banks will not be able to make up the difference, not at least at where they are right now. Oops, not money. I don't know why I put a money symbol there. 41 million Americans. Yeah. So I'm not sure if you're able, and I know a lot of you are at the age where you have children. I get it. You can't go volunteer. But if you're like my age and you're able to volunteer, even if it's like, I like the place I go because you can just pick up a day shift. Oh, and here's something else that was really weird. In the past, when I've looked, most weeks are full. It's pretty rare you see openings 1 week in advance. But right now, there are all these openings. They need help like every day. So I went in a couple of times and I was talking to the woman in charge, and she said the reason why they were so filled up with volunteers all the time is because businesses would fill the spaces as part of their like outreach or whatever. And for some reason, they stopped doing that without warning. Oh, my stomach growled. Sorry. Oh my gosh. I'm talking about food. And I don't know. I don't know this. I haven't researched that, but I was like, what? And I said, well, it was just like one business stopped. And she goes, no, that we had like 2 different businesses who stopped, just didn't fill the weeks like they usually do. What? I don't know why. I don't know what that's about. So that's something some reporters should probably start doing a deep dive on. Like, our business is cutting back on that kind of thing. I don't know. But yeah, so if you're able, I think that would be, and I just think volunteering, like when you start to feel like, oh my gosh, the whole world's going crazy and I can't do anything about it, volunteering is a way to feel like you have a little bit of control. I think it's really good. Even when I had kids, this is so small, it's a nothing thing, but I always fostered kittens. And even like the bottle babies, you had to feed the little, and it was good to do because I felt like I was helping, and it was really good for my kids too, I think, to have that experience to help like a small animal. And sometimes they didn't make it. Sometimes, sometimes you get bottle babies without a mom. That's hard. But it was all learning experience, and I think it's good. So I just think if you can volunteer and I will say, the one place I was volunteering, I was talking to this girl who was also there, and she said, well, my work gives me volunteer pay. And I was like, wait, what? She goes, yeah, I can take off work to volunteer and they still pay me for the day. And then I wanted to pull a Larry Sanders, from Curb Your Enthusiasm. I was ready to go, so you're not really volunteering and you're getting paid because I'm here out of the goodness of my heart. No, I'm just kidding. It doesn't matter why, but you could look into that with your work. They might pay you, and it's fun. I mean, I really had a nice time. More at the one where I dealt with actual people because like I said, they were so thankful, and my job was to give them like snacks because they were waiting in line for like 10 hours. And so I was giving out snacks and stuff. And I mean, the sort of thankfulness was incredible, like really incredible. Like, and I left there feeling so good. Like, I showed up at 4 a.m., I think, and I was there till like 1 maybe. And so I was like, God, that was just awesome and just really great. And then I took a nap. And when I woke up, it was weird because like my whole mood changed a little bit, and I was really frustrated and mad that these people have to do this, or that any people. And by the way, it wasn't like they were all homeless people. There were people who work full-time jobs who just don't have insurance for those kind of things. There were some homeless people. There were some, just people who were like, I got to get this thing done. I can't, it's too much money. And people with kids, and oh my God, it's crazy. But I'm like, what are we doing? We've got people in this country who have billions of dollars, like literally. And these companies, you know what? I'm turning into like a radical. But I was reading some of these companies like Walmart. They've got like $400 billion, and yet some of their employees don't have dental or make enough money. Maybe they do. Maybe I'm wrong about that. But I felt like some of the people I was talking to were employees of those kind of businesses. But maybe I'm wrong. Chime in if you were, because I know Amazon gets ripped on a lot, and maybe they're terrible. I don't know. But I know my son worked at Amazon for a while, and they actually, it was during COVID, I think, so he got a bonus and he got all these incentives, and he did pretty good at Amazon, so I don't know. But maybe not as good as, I mean, he was like a college kid, so I don't know. Anyway, yeah. That's what's up. That's what I figured out. I'm trying to think. Oh my God. I'm sorry. I have to go eat breakfast. My stomach's crawling so bad. I'm sorry. Okay. All right. Well, yeah. So for like every dollar, it I don't know how you say that. It's like a ripple effect in the economy. So like you put $1 in, and then it starts to go out into the stores and the truckers and the delivery drivers and the farms and the factories, and it just kind of, so if you don't drop that dollar in, these things don't happen. Oh, that was pretty good. I like that. I like this ripple effect. It's nice. So it's not like a big, and by doing that, it keeps the grocery prices stable. And that's a big deal to everybody. It should be. Unless you're like super wealthy and you just don't care. but you should still care. All right. I can't think of anything else that I learned today. SNAP makes up 2% or less of our government spending. And I did a video on government spending too, if you're curious. SNAP also includes WIC, which is a very important program that we should all look into because in the 1930s, during the Great Depression, that's when they started food stamps. During the Kennedy administration, from 61 to 64, they got food stamps going again and ended up passing the Food Stamp Act of 1964. In 1990 to 2000, during that time, they switched over to EBT cards, which are more like a debit card that you use at the cash register. In 2008, they renamed it SNAP, Supplemental Nutritional Assistance Program. This is all part of the Farm Bill, so it does help farmers. So you have your person shopping with their EBT card, and then they spend money at the grocery store, which helps maintain grocery store prices, and they give a job to the cashier and everybody who works at that store. It will also have money now to spend in the local economy, so it's kind of important for small towns in particular. And the grocery store has to order for deliveries, so the truck drivers and the delivery companies make money and keep their jobs. And they have to get their products from factories and from farm workers, which gives jobs to the farm workers and the factory workers and keeps those businesses running. And that is part of the ripple effect. And there are at least 41 million Americans who will be affected by SNAP. I'm so sorry. My stomach is crawling, but I'm not refilming because all this talk about food